something crosses the road. It's skeletal like, fleshy, and it stands up, and then it like kind of just almost like leaps.
They look back and they see one. Clear as day. It walked 5 feet away from my audio recorder. We just saw a Bigfoot. Holy crap.
I've been pinched, I've been tapped on the shoulder, I've had my name hollered, a hand came up underneath my left arm. I said, little son of a bitch tried to get me. That was the time that I decided you don't sleep inside that building.
Did you see that?
The cow cur, it's big, it's white, and it runs faster than any man could ever run. And he would lean out behind the tree. And that's why we never go out, because the booger will get you.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Exploring the Unknown. I'm Dustin.
I'm Luke.
We are your hosts with the most ghosts. Today we have on Ron Murphy, cryptozoologist, historian, and author. First, we got podcast mentions.
Yeah, we have a website, get to exploringunknownpod.com. We have a blog that we update every week. We have Cash App and PayPal if you would like to support the podcast. Any donations would help. If you would like to put a would you rather question in the description below, we'll explore that on a future episode. Contact section. We have a contact section on our page where you can write your encounters and have a chance to be on a future episode. The website also has an event page where you can see all the events that will be at in the future. And one is PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure, September 6th and 7th in Farmington, PA. A weekend is $50 per ticket, and you can go individually. One day it's cheaper each day. Affiliate links. We got Go Stop and Amazon. If you purchase anything through those links in the description below, that also helps support the podcast. YouTube. If you haven't already, please go subscribe and share our YouTube. The more followers and subscribers we get on YouTube, that helps a lot too.
Yeah. I feel like we rushed through all of that. I guess not so much you. It was like, I don't know. I'm sitting here holding my breath for some reason. I don't know what's going on. For some reason, my brain's like, we're on a time limit and we have to get it done within a certain amount of time. I don't know why.
See, I thought I started off fast, and I was like, well, I should probably slow down a little bit.
I mean, you were doing good. It was a good pace. It was a good pace. But I think that's all of it, right?
Yep, that's all of it.
Okay, cool. Now, let's talk about Ron Murphy. That was a really interesting conversation. I enjoyed that conversation with Ron. Mm-hmm. Like I said, he is a cryptozoologist, historian, and an author with a profound knowledge of the mystical and elusive fae. Ron has dedicated his career to uncovering the rich history and folklore surrounding these mysterious creatures. In addition to his extensive work on the fae, he has also delved into the curious case of the Squonk. We like the Squonk. If anybody is unfamiliar, the Squonk is an intriguing yet sorrowful creature. But enough of us jib-jabbing. Join us as we talk with Ron, and he shares his wealth of knowledge and fascinating stories, taking us on a journey through the magical and mysterious realms of the fae and beyond. So how you doing today?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Doing good. Doing good. Yeah. So welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you on.
A pleasure being here, my friend.
Yeah. Well, we are recording right now. So I just want to just give you the forewarning.
Heads up. Good enough. Thank you.
hmm So I don't ever know how to start these things, to be honest. People come on and then I feel like I fumble around with trying to figure out what to say. So I'm gonna just dive right into it if that's okay.
No, well, yeah, I'll tell you what, I don't think the people that listen to or view podcasts realize how extremely difficult they are to come up with content and then to keep a constant conversation going over an hour time. That's a difficult thing. I used to do my own podcast, and I kind of weaned myself off of doing my own because they are just so gosh darn difficult.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I seen
That,
you on a couple of podcasts.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I do enjoy talking with people, but as the person that's like leading the conversation, and people depending upon me to come up with new content all the time, I'm just not your guy for that. That's the reason I like this kind of format, because we all are interested in the same thing. We kind of just throw it out there on the table and we talk about it.
Mhm.
hmm Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you are a cryptozoologist, historian, and an author, correct?
I am. You know what? I think the idea, because anybody can call themselves a cryptozoologist, and it sounds really cool, but there's no educational type of committee out there that's giving documents to people and awarding them degrees in cryptozoology. So in reality, my interest in things that go bump in the night and monsters and such really kind of culminated whenever I was a kid, watching In Search of and watching all these great shows. And I thought, is that true? I mean, is there something out there lurking on the periphery that we don't know about? So I think that my interest first began with that kind of childhood curiosity. And then I actually am a trained historian. I have a master's degree in history, and really is through history that led me down to this rabbit hole. Because you look at the Epic of Gilgamesh, which dates to right around the time of the pyramids. You have a character in there that looks remarkably like a Bigfoot, and Kaidu is the character's name. He's described as being covered in hair and running with the animals. It's really an interesting thing to see these archetypes pop up again and again throughout literature across time and space, and they all represent this figure of a hair covered bipedal creature. The wild man. I wrote a book about Bigfoot, and it's called On Wild Man Tracking Bigfoot Through History. And whenever you really look at it from the greater perspective, whenever you kind of pull back that worldview, you can see that cultures all around the world have this idea of the hairy wild man that exists right outside of the civilized world. And as a historian, that's extremely interesting to me. And then you look at things like werewolves and vampires and ghosts and witches and all these other great kind of archetypes that are out there. And we can see that it's really kind of embroidered into our DNA. It really makes us human, knowing that these things are out there. It kind of puts us in our place, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked a little while. Well, as it was
Your mic's acting up.
what it's like to. Is it really? Of course it is. Technical difficulties. Do I sound okay?
Sound
Yeah,
good
you
now?
sound good now.
Okay. Yeah. That's something that we talked about is what it's like what is the process of becoming a cryptozoologist, if there's some education that needed to be taken on, or if it was like a certification or anything like that. But I'm glad you cleared that up.
Yeah, nothing like that. I will tell you, in the world of the paranormal, there are people out there that are extremely intelligent whenever it comes to delving into the search for unknown animals. Ken Gerhard, Lauren Coleman, Jeff Meldrum, Eric Altman. There's a lot of people out there that are very geared to the study of the unknown from an intellectual and from an educational point of view. There's a lot of people out there that also call themselves cryptozoologists, and all they do is go out in the woods and knock on trees and do those whoops and calls and things like that. So, there's a very fine line between somebody that's legitimately looking for a biological answer and somebody that's just out there kind of cosplaying being a cryptozoologist. Now, all that stuff is fine and dandy if we are talking about something that is purely biological. But I think that when you delve into the world deeper into things like Bigfoot, the more of a gray area you come up with. It's not just cut and dry that this is some sort of unknown primate. It's not as simple as that. There's something more going on. People talk about Bigfoot being seen in conjunction with UFOs or lights of some kind. The idea that Bigfoot has been seen to disappear at times. So unless we are discounting all these kind of eyewitness, sightings as being hoaxed or made up, not so much as trying to get one over on people, but just a simple misidentification. And there's definitely something else going on than just looking for a North American great ape.
Yeah,
I agree.
And that idea is tossed around a lot. The thought of Bigfoot being an interdimensional being.
That's right. Now, where I'm at in Western Pennsylvania, and really the thing that got me onto this is Stan Gordon, who's really like the godfather of this kind of stuff. Whenever we're talking about, especially the unexplained in Pennsylvania, but I think he's done a great deal of influence around the world. But I was a kid. I was in elementary school. And I come from a very small town that had one street light, not much went on there. But in the winter of '77, there were Bigfoot reports all over the place. And Stan was reporting on them. And, a lot of times they were seeing conjunctions with UFOs. And sometimes really strange things were happening as well, too. One eyewitness account saw a Bigfoot at a location, and they felt really scared and nervous, so they got out of there. And whenever they got back home and pulled into their driveway, they saw the same creature standing and staring at them from the woodline. So the idea that they can be followed by these creatures, there's a sort of a bilocation element to them as well, too. That, that is more than what would be expected from a merely physical animal.
Yeah. Now, have you ever seen Bigfoot? Have you ever witnessed anything?
You know what? I have not ever seen Bigfoot. Now, I found tracks. I've heard very, very strange vocalizations. I cannot quantify what it might have been. And I have heard what I believe is a wood knock. It was just one knock out in the middle of nowhere about 3:00 in the morning. So I've had anecdotal things happen to me, but we were filming for Small Town Monsters. We were filming a program called Sasquatch Uncovered: The Ridge, which centered on the Chestnut Ridge here in Western Pennsylvania, and we were out, filming this episode, and a lot of strange things started to happen. We did hear a howl, but one of the strangest things we heard was something like wind chimes, if that makes any sense at all. Now, I'd never witnessed this before, but there was a sound of wind chimes. And then preceding or after the wind chimes happened, we started to witness what can only be called earth lights, where these balls of light started to manifest around us. Now, this was part of a Bigfoot investigation, and we were witnessing something completely, surreal, something that I'd never experienced before. And it led me down that, down that rabbit hole. And I wrote a book entitled, it was on Earth Lights, Out of the Mist. And it's going to be released by Small Town Monsters here very soon, as well as having a special program to go along with it. Because this is one of those few times in research where it was documented on film. What we were seeing. So these kind of instances and listening to other people report about what they had seen. It leads me to the firm conclusion that there is an interconnectivity to this world of the paranormal. That, whether you're looking for Bigfoot or UFOs or ghosts or what have you, there's this kind of area where everything kind of comes together and coalesces. And as a researcher, that drives me on even more, because that's extremely interesting to think that there is, almost another reality out there beyond what we're witnessing here.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about all of it, to be honest. I've never had a solid encounter that has made me fully believe that these things are out there. But I'm not saying that they're not out there, but I'm a skeptical believer. Like I like to tell Luke, I'm the person that believes it's out there, but I have to have a firsthand encounter to truly solidify myself in that belief.
Right. Well, I think we all do. I'm still skeptical, even though that I've heard things and I've seen strange lights and everything. I still have not come to the conclusion that Bigfoot exists. Now, I've come to the conclusion that something exists, and that's a huge step, I think. But I don't know what that something is.
Right. Yeah, that's why I like talking to people, because you can tell that they're being genuine about what they're saying, that they had their experience.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, these people, I do a lot of conferences. There will be guys that come up to me, and they'll come up to my table and say, you don't believe in this crap, do you? And I said, I keep an open mind. And then they wander away. And, a few minutes later, they come to my table and they have tears in their eyes. And these are big, burly guys, with, tattoos, that kind of stuff. And then they will tell me a story that they were out hunting, or just, they were out in the woods doing something, and they encountered a creature that made no sense to them, and it impacted them systemically. It made them physically sick, and even bringing up the report, even though it might have happened years before, they were brought to tears because they had no idea how to incorporate this into their knowledge of the world around them.
Right. Yeah.
And that's something to be said.
Now, I've had some things that I've experienced that were just odd. And this one specific thing, more related to Bigfoot, I like to ask people that have had experiences and are knowledgeable about some of the other people's experiences. So what had happened, it was on Thanksgiving. And it was me and my mom and my daughter. We were outside and we were doing Bigfoot calls. It was probably 10 o'clock at night. And all of a sudden we get surrounded by this, like a high pitched hum, a frequency. Have you ever heard telephone lines vibrate whenever it's really cold?
Yeah. Yes, I have.
Yeah, but it wasn't cold enough for them to be doing that. So I don't know what that was. It was odd. So
the more I've been involved, now remember, I've been researching this from a point of knowledge for about 30 years now. So not just a passing curiosity, but with college degrees and with background in certain disciplines, I've been approaching this field for about 30 years, and I've come to this conclusion. And you kind of hit the nail on the head there, my friend. I think so much of this has to do with frequency. Okay, that whether these things or feel these things or whatever the case may be, I've come to this kind of almost hypothesis, and you have to bear with me for a little bit. What happens if all these things that we call the paranormal, whether it be ghosts or Bigfoot or vampires or whatever, what happens if those are vibrational frequencies that exist in the world, right? They're a part of the world itself. They're a living force that has not ever been cataloged in any way. And what happens when we encounter these kind of frequencies? these vibrations then impact how we interpret the world around us. So it's our minds that are kind of filling in the blank spaces. And I wrote a book several years ago on fairies because I've always been intrigued and fascinated by fairy lore. And I find out there's a lot of similarities between fairies and ghosts and all these other kind of things that go bump in the night. So is it possible that because we have evolved into this kind of enlightened humanity where science it takes precedent over everything, is it possible that the fairy realm, which we have forgotten about, is actually true? And we're not talking about Tinkerbell, we're not talking about any of that kind of stuff. We're talking about forces within the world that are sentient and that are living. And, you know, throughout the ages, whether you go back to the Paleolithic and we're talking about shaman, or we're talking about experiencers now of Bigfoot, but we are now interacting with this frequency. And that is how we are coming across again and again throughout history these archetypes that are continually brought up in cultures all around the world. I think it's something to consider at least, you know, because how do I know about Bigfoot and then somebody in China also has that knowledge? I think there is something there that connects us both as humanity, it connects us as human beings, but it also connects us to the other as well too, to creation, to the world itself, to the universe, have you. I think there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
I agree.
I kind of understand things more from the perspective of frequency and energy. And as you were talking, I was just thinking about this, you know, because I believe that as we are going through life and growing up, we are conditioned, whether we are seeing it or not. And I'm just wondering if maybe at an early time, like long time ago, that we were able to perceive these frequencies, and that's why that you hear so many folklore of fairies and things like that. But over time, we've just been programmed to not perceive that anymore.
I get that is a stunning observation, and one that I made as well too. The frequency is still out there, right? We have decided to step away from it. When we were hunter and gatherers, you know, we depended upon the world around us. Even when we were agricultural, we depended upon the cyclical nature of the world around us, of how things ebbed and how things flowed. But now we have electricity and we can go down to the store and we can, you know, we can grow our own meat in laboratories. So the world, you know, nature now is a commodity that we can use up to the point that it is almost non-existent anymore. And so all those things that were inherently within the natural world, all the things that we were in awe of, now has been kind of, you know, domesticated to the point that we are forgetting about where we came from. The frequency is still out there. We're just not electing to step back into it or recognize it anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Right. That chaos of nature, you know, that reverent fear of what could happen. You know, we personify this in so many ways. You know, early on, you know, the thunder would be deified as, you know, a god, you know, whether it be Thor or, you know, Zeus or a myriad of other gods. You know, either there are some suggestions even that, you know, that the Hebrew god, you know, was started out, at least in our knowledge of the divine, as some sort of storm-centered god. And I'm a Catholic, so I'm not trying to be sacrilegious here or anything like that. I'm just saying that human beings have been dealing with the divine since we first opened our eyes and looked around. And we're trying to discern and decipher what the divine is. We've written it down in Bibles and we've written it down in sacred text, but we're still grappling with the idea that there's something there that's so far beyond us that we can't almost comprehend it, you know? And that's a theme throughout religions all around the world.
Yeah. I was born Catholic, and it's definitely an experience learning all these things while being a Catholic, and it's like, what's the? It's a mind-blowing experience. It's like that's not what we were taught
Yeah.
when we were growing up.
No, that's right. That's right. We are the idea. What happens in religions of any kind? There has to be. It's the same as politics. Whatever the case may be, there has to be some sort of control, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you are trying to get people to follow you, you have to have control over those people. But I think that when we talk about, when we talk about faith and we talk about the divine, that is not an experience that I don't think that a church can ever teach you. That is something that you have to come upon by your own accord,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that once you witness, you come face to face with that you call God or whatever name you want to give it. That is whenever it becomes genuine and real. I have talked to pagans before, and a lot of their beliefs are very aligned with Catholic beliefs. The idea that that nature is a wonder, and I think that's the other thing too. So getting away from that, so pulling back on this, the religion that we have nowadays is very different than the religion we had in the Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages, we were working the lands, we were still depending upon the world around us. So you had great thinkers like Thomas Aquinas and St. Francis of Assisi that came along, and they thought that nature was another way in which to see God and learn about God. That God had written two books, one was the Bible and one was the book of nature. We don't believe that anymore because it's hard to find nature anymore. And the idea that God is all around us, the divine is all around us, is something we really need to get back to, because if we continue, we have to go to people for answers instead of coming to our own conclusions, then we will always be part of this kind of hive mentality. And that is not what we're designed to be. We're all individuals. We all have to come up to this on our own individual basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of at a point in my life now where I've learned so much about, I don't know what's true and I don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
I feel stuck.
Yeah, you do. You feel and that is something as well. I think it's pertinent to talk about this too on a podcast that's talking about the paranormal, because religion is in and of itself very paranormal. It's definitely beyond the realms of normality, and we talk about miracles and things like that, and that all has a very paranormal bent to it, very supernatural. Let's put it, and we are conditioned to not believe in things that cannot be proven from a scientific point of view. I do a lot of podcasts with Dave Scott, who does Spaced Out Radio, and he came to the conclusion that kind of screw science. We are dealing with Bigfoot and all these kind of things that exist beyond the concept of science. So maybe it's not relevant to use the scientific method when we are investigating such things, and that can also be extrapolated into our idea of faith and religion as well too. Maybe we can't just simply use other people's thoughts and their designs. Maybe we have to come upon it, on our own.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely things up at this point in life that I've understood differently. And it kind of sucks because you can't go back. And once you know the truth, that's it.
Right. Well, you have a daughter, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I have 3.
Oh, you have 3. See, I have 5, and that's madness. But anyways, so the idea that there is more out there to life, I think, becomes abundantly clear whenever you have children. Because they basically came from nothing, and now all of a sudden there's these little personalities that are walking around. And to me, life is a tremendous miracle. I can't explain it, and I can't really comprehend how I was even, was able to be a father to these kids. The majority of them are knuckleheads, but there's a couple of them that are pretty good. But even in their waywardness, you still see these kind of miracles happen out there. So I think that whenever you have kids, and also what happens with kids as well too, is you start looking beyond yourself. That a part of me now lives within them, and that's going to go on until that branch no longer exists. But I still find it hard to believe that they came out of nothing. I truly believe that there is a gift involved here, and I think that as a parent, you start looking at the world in a far different way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You have kids too, Luke?
I got 3 girls.
Right. Okay. Well, see, we all procreate pretty well on here. Then that's good.
I did my job.
But biological human being. I think from a biological point of view, they say that you are a successful biological entity if you produce children and your children produce children. You've done your job. And I am also a grandfather, so I've done my job.
That's a good way to look at it. Makes me feel a little bit better about all the other things.
That's right. That's right. Until your 22-year-old asks to borrow the car and he wrecks it. Those kind of things happen as well too.
We're gonna have to worry about that for a while.
Yeah. No.
Good.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it though.
The older they get, the worse it becomes, and the more expensive it becomes as well too. Because they have jobs and stuff, and you would think, well, this is going to be great because hopefully they call me a couple times a week, and they give me a call once a day. Hey, I need this, I need that. And I thought that was over, but apparently it never ends.
Yeah.
Looking for creatures, you see. I think that those things that go bump in the night are much easier to swallow than what my kids require me to do.
Yeah.
I agree.
We had a take your kid to work day. Instead of taking our kids to our normal boring job, we decided to bring them on the podcast, and we had it was almost 2 hours. Or no, was it an hour? It might have been an hour. We sat and talked about what their perspectives were on these cryptids and paranormal and things.
Yes. And what did they come up? What was their conclusion?
They believe it for the most
All different
part.
kinds.
Wow. Yeah. I was a teacher. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say they had brought up some cryptids that I didn't even realize were out there.
Yeah. Well, there are cryptids are in video games now, and they're in these card games. The idea of cryptids is now very, very mainstream.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember taking my daughter to some investigations, and occasionally it would make the newspapers around here, and she would go into stores and turn the paper over so none of her friends would see her in it.
Jeez.
Because that was a little bit of an embarrassment to her. But the more notoriety I get, the more she is kind of warming up to the idea a little bit.
My oldest one wants to go ghost hunting.
Oh, right. Yeah. Some of the most astounding things I've ever had happen to me was with my daughter as we went ghost hunting. It really was.
Yeah, Ella wants to go ghost hunting. She's my middle child. The oldest is like, nah. What's that?
How old are your children?
Mine's 9, 7, and almost 2.
All right. You're just getting started, my friend.
Oh yeah. Dustin, you still here? I think your camera first, or your something first.
Yeah. Yeah, I was running into this kind of stuff earlier today as well too. I had told you before I came on the show, I'm not a very technologically advanced person, and right
Mm-hmm.
now I'm with on my cell phone because my computer. I think my computer is getting a little old and it didn't have Skype, so it wasn't like downloading Skype. So I just put it on my cell phone, but it works out well.
Both, yeah.
Better as well too.
Am I
Now,
back?
yeah,
There
there you go.
he's back.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Now, what's your
Go ahead, Luke.
take on the squonk? That's why one reason we had you on here, because to talk about the squonk.
Oh, right. So, there is a Squonk Festival in Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, you guys get up there. This will be the second year for it, and I was flabbergasted that they were going to put a festival on regarding this little cryptid. But he's become one of my favorite ones, and this will be the second year in a row that I'll be speaking there about our good friend the Squonk, and it's not an ancient cryptid by any stretch of the imagination. He's only been around probably for a couple hundred years, if that, maybe 150 years. But he is one of these little guys that looks a little bit like a pig, covered in all kinds of boils and warts and things of that nature. And actually, he is so ugly that if he catches a view of his reflection in a puddle of water or anything like that, he will disintegrate into tears because he would cry himself into nothing more than evaporation. Now, and also, people wanted to do hunt the squonk, and once they capture the squonk and they throw him in a bag, they open up the bag, and at the end of the day, there's nothing in there but his tears. So it's an interesting thing. Also, he is uniquely Pennsylvanian, which is other strange things as well too. He lives in the northern forest of Pennsylvania, kind of like the last holdout for anything. But he's made such a indelible mark on culture that Steely Dan actually mentions the squonk in a song, and the prog rock band Genesis has a song called Squonk, and it's about that Squonk himself. I mean, the whole song is, and it's incredible that such nobody is out there reporting Squonk sightings. It's just not happening. So he's kind of like a poster child or a mascot for things that are unexplained, because he's such a likable character. He's not going to hurt you. He has no fangs or anything like that. He's just a misunderstood, misaligned, unknown creature that still exists out there today. So they say.
I haven't done a whole lot of research on the squonk. We had someone on not long ago that told us that the squonk was what'd she call it? Lumberjack lore or something like that?
Yeah.
Right. And actually, the book that it's featured in is like Tells from the Lumbering Woods or something like that. Yeah. So definitely it has lumberjack lore. But we can't throw that out completely, because when we talk about the Dogman, the first instances of the Dogman all came from Michigan, Minnesota, places of the big woods, whenever they were cutting down those trees in the late 1800s. So just because these might be lumberman fantasies doesn't mean that there's no truth behind them.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on the Dogman?
Oh, see, that's an interesting thing as well. So I wrote a book about 5 or 6 years ago on Dogman, and it's called On Dogman: Tracking the Werewolf Through History, kind of like my Bigfoot book. But so again, it is definitely an archetype. We can see images of the wildness and the intelligence of a human being incorporated into one shape-shifting personality, I guess you could say, on cave art. You can see in the Cave of the Wizard in France, you see somebody turning into, in the process of transforming into a deer, And I know that there are caves from around the world that show people transforming into deer and bear and things. And I don't know anything about a transformation into a wolf. At least nothing that I know of. But we know at least that in our minds, in our ancient minds, the idea of transformation was something that was readily apparent in the world around us. But as we go through history again, we see that the Egyptians had deified the dogman and Anubis. We can see that the Vikings wore wolf skins so they could take on the behavior of the wolf whenever they fought. Not only the berserkers, but you also had those people that fought in wolf skins. And it goes all the way up through history where people nowadays identify themselves as werewolves now. So it's an interesting thing. A lot of it has to do with psychology. A lot of it has to do with how we personify the world around us. But again, there is that invariable out there. And the question is, do these things actually exist in physical form? And I think that there is something to be said with people seeing these things very lucidly and reporting them, that there is something also out there that may be in this rather than just merely fantasy and speculation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a couple of dogman sighting claims. There was one here. We're southwestern PA. Not to get too close to home, but there was one local here that was claimed. It was on a TV show too, wasn't it? Do you remember what TV show that was, Luke?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
I know.
Kirk Reed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it would revolve around?
I'm sorry, I don't think I understand the question.
Do you remember what the report was based upon? Like what was the activities that were reported?
I think they saw one and they had one in their backyard. And I have to think of what the show's called. Let me look on Amazon because I have it on my Amazon.
It's called These Woods Are Haunted.
Yeah, These Woods Are Haunted.
Yeah. Could it? Oh, okay. Well, there's a couple of things that happened in Pennsylvania. One of them was a very well publicized case called the Shenango Valley Dog Void. Did you ever hear of that one?
No.
Where people seeing this very small hair-covered creature crawling around their backyards at night and things. And apparently there was a lot of research that went into this, and they found out that there was a child in the area that was born with hypertrichosis, which makes hair grow, quite abundantly. And the only time he would go out to play, so it wouldn't be ridiculed by kids, was at night. And they believe that werewolf legend stemmed from that particular encounter with that poor boy.
Oh, that's interesting. I never heard of that.
Yeah, and there's a complete section in my book that I wrote about werewolves too, about the idea of hypertrichosis and other kind of diseases that may have been responsible for werewolf reports through history.
Yeah, I seen you have quite a few books out there, right?
I think I don't write entirely on the paranormal. I do have a couple of self-help books out there as well too. I've written a lot of poetry, and I've written a novel as well, and some short stories. So I think I have about 23 different things published somewhere around that area.
Oh wow,
that's awesome. Yeah, I thought about dabbling in that a little bit sometime whenever I find time.
Yeah, that's the thing. It does take time. I mean, I was surprised at how long things take. And remember now, all these books were put out before AI. And one of the terrible things that are happening right now is that there are people out there that pretend that they are investigators and researchers, and you can get these AI generators where you can just tell it what you want it to write about. And I think that's going to happen more and more. But you really tell by reading closely if there's any humanity behind it. And for the most part, it just comes out as very droll and formulaic and boring. But yeah, fight the good fight, my friend. I give you all the credit in the world if you want to pursue writing.
Thank you.
We thought about writing kids' books about like different cryptids and like try to like teach them lessons, like a lesson thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that's necessary because I got into the cryptozoological and the unknown whenever I was a kid, and kids are
Mm-hmm.
naturally drawn to this. And I've done programs in schools, and I've done Bigfoot camping adventures where children are just in awe of this kind of stuff. You know, kids naturally want to be out in the woods. No kid really wants to play video games unless they're given video games, right? I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think actually want to go out there with sticks and get muddy and all that stuff. And I think that if we would have a book series out there to introduce children to the unknown, they would be all over that. So I think that's something to pursue.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Exploring Unknown. We really enjoyed talking with Ron and his encounter, his knowledge about the Squonk and all the other Fae things. Go check out the website exploringunknown.com and go to the contact section and screw it up.
It's been a long day. We just got off work not that long ago. It's been
An hour
such a
ago.
yeah. It's been a long day.
Yeah, go to the contact section, and if you have any encounters, reach out to us, and there's a chance to be on a future episode. Affiliate links. Go stop at Amazon. If you purchase anything through these links below, it helps us support the show. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, go to the Cash App and PayPal on the website and send us a donation there. And in the description below, write a would you rather question or any questions we can explore in the future episode. PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure, September 6th and 7th in Farmington, PA. We'll be there setting up, selling merch, recording podcasts, and scheduling people for the future.
Yeah.
And don't forget to check out the YouTube. Go subscribe, hit the bell button for notifications.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we post videos, you'll get notified.
Heck yeah. It has been such a long day, dude. It really has. We just switched schedules.
It was.
We just switched schedules with work from working a regular 8-hour shift Monday through Friday in the evening to working a early morning shift Monday through Thursday, now 10-hour days. So it's a change to get used to.
Yeah. We still gotta record these podcasts though.
Absolutely. We gotta get it done. So I have a would you rather. This one is the first one ever from outside of ChatGPT. This is coming from Renee. This is coming from my wife. And it was a good one.
Okay.
Would you rather have Bigfoot or a gray as your best friend, and why?
Like, I'd rather have a Bigfoot or a gray. That's my best friend. Why? That's a good question, Renee. When you hear this, that's a good question. That's hard because there's could be benefits for both.
That's what I said. You're struggling just as hard as I was.
Bigfoot can teach you a lot about the wilderness and the wild, but if you're friends with the gray, you could go to outer space and shit like that. That would be cool as hell too. And could you imagine the technology they have that you can mess around with?
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Oh God. I don't know.
Well, here's a question that I had asked her, which her answer didn't help because it just made me even more stuck. looking at it from the perspective of, is Bigfoot a flesh and blood creature, or is Bigfoot interdimensional? That changes things.
It does, because you can get different dimensions, maybe.
Well, I mean, you could probably do that with the gray too, but because like I had explained to her, if Bigfoot is not interdimensional, then gray all the way, because I'm a person that enjoys learning new things, and I feel like them being a more evolved version of us, possibly, that they could really enlighten me on my existence and reality. But if Bigfoot is interdimensional, then I feel he could also provide me with that sort of insight.
Yeah, I might have to go with the gray.
Yeah.
As much as it'd be cool to be like, oh yeah, my best friend's Bigfoot, but like, I think I'd rather go with the gray.
I definitely think that would be cool. But I don't have anything else for this, man.
And neither do I. If you guys would like to answer this question, comment below on YouTube, and I believe you can do it on Spotify and any other platforms like that.
Yeah. Bigfoot or gray is a best friend. We want to hear from the audience.
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time.
See ya.